Well, Fox Carolina Investigates tonight. A new law will give school nurses the ability to help more children and possibly save a life. In this Fox Carolina investigation, we found that students were overdosing inside upstate schools.
Now, laws at the time did not allow school nurses to use Narcan, which is a life-saving medication that can reverse the effects of an overdose. After our reporting, Governor Henry McMaster signed a bill into law changing this. Fox Carolina's Grace Runkle tells us what districts are doing now.
School nurses can now stock and administer inhalers, EpiPens, and now Narcan. It's a nasal spray that can save someone having a fatal reaction to opioids. Overdoses have been on the rise across the state, and for the first time, we're hearing the terrifying moments when someone had to call 911 for a student.
County emergency. We just had a student pass out of high school in the gym.
Earlier this year, Fox Carolina News uncovered this incident at Woodmont High School through Freedom of Information Act requests.
Is that person awake or do I need to be 10-5?
He's in and out.
A teen overdosing at a pep rally last October. Thankfully, a school resource officer, which not all schools have, had Narcan and was able to revive him.
You're good. He's alert.
According to the incident report, the school nurse was there but could only take the student's pulse. But thanks to the Life-Saving Medication Act, the nurse will be able to step in if it happens again.
We need to have this. This is a safe, effective medication that we're making available to schools to have on hand for free.
Dr. Brandon Traxler is the Director of Public Health for the South Carolina Department of Health. She says suspected overdoses at schools have been on the rise. In 2019, Traxler says there were 12 cases where Narcan was administered, then 6, 19, 17. They only have preliminary data for this year, but there were 7 suspected opioid overdoses between January and March. Traxler says about 70 to 75% of those cases involved kids and teens under 20 years old.
Even if it just saves one life this year, it still is worth it, in my opinion.
About 64% of school districts in South Carolina stopped by DHEC headquarters last week for free doses of Narcan, bought with federal grant money. Traxler says that means more than 850 schools will be stocked with the drug, and that includes every public school in Greenville County.
I think it's very important that we have that, and it's available to us, as a tool.
District head nurse Janet Loggy says their nurses were trained at the end of the last school year.
The nurses will then train our first responders in the buildings, which is our volunteer staff who is trained in first aid.
Adding another line of defense in the fight against opioids. If and when Narcan is administered, schools will have to fill out a form. Questions include where the administration took place and when, the number of doses, and the age and gender of the person receiving the medicine. DHEC says this data will help them get a better idea about drug usage among students. Grace Runkle, Fox Carolina News.